Is American culture on the rise toward a new enlightened golden age, or is it in decline? While many individuals who are over 30 can relate anecdotal evidence about changes they have experienced in their lifetimes, they are often unsure whether the changes have been good or bad. The reality is that America is in a cultural descent to a brave new world. Judeo-Christian morality, which so imbued this nation at its founding, has been jettisoned, as will be readily apparent from the following cultural indicators. We often hear about improvements in crime control, but the real story is that improvements are only found in comparison to the violent decade of the 1990s. Between 1960 and 2004, violent crime in the United States increased by nearly 200%. So we see violent crime skyrocketing, even though during the period between 1982 and 2003, law enforcement expenditures for the United States more than doubled, even after adjusting for inflation and population growth. Between 1982 and 2004, the number of individuals in jail, prison, on probation or parole increased by almost 200%, even after correcting for population growth. American culture is increasingly violent, and more of our resources are being spent on prisons and law enforcement. Between 1952 and 1995, the rate of suicide among adolescents and young adults increased by nearly 200%. Divorce rates in America have nearly doubled since the 1960s. That probably is not a shock to most. Further erosion of the traditional two-parent family has occurred due to the rise of births to unmarried women. In 1960, only 5.3% of babies were born to unmarried women. By 2000, that number had increased to 33.2%, for a dramatic increase of over 500%. These numbers should only be expected to increase. A recent survey of high school students indicated that 56% viewed having children out of wedlock as an acceptable lifestyle. While attitudes about marriage and childbearing are changing, change is not always good. Prominent family expert David Popenow had this to say about the state of marriage in his testimony before the House Ways and Means Committee. Why should this marriage decline be of national concern? Principally because of its effects on our nation's children. The social science evidence is now overwhelming that children fare better in life if they grow up in a married, two-parent family. Children who grow up in other family forms are 2 to 3 times at greater risk of having serious behavioral and emotional problems when they become adolescents and adults. Many of today's youth problems can be attributed directly or indirectly to the decline of marriage. This includes high rates of juvenile delinquency, suicide, substance abuse, child poverty, mental illness, and emotional instability. Much of the linkage between the decline of marriage and the rise of problems in childhood rests with the absent father. Meanwhile, the United States is experiencing an epidemic of unprecedented proportions with respect to sexually transmitted disease, or STDs. Approximately 70 million Americans are infected with STDs. That is nearly 25% of the population. Many are currently unaware that they are infected. Approximately 45 million Americans are infected with incurable genital herpes. One study showed that 50% of sexually active women ages 18 to 22 are infected with HPV. It is estimated that over 15 million STD infections occur each year, with 2/3 of those occurring in individuals 25 and under. In 1960, only 2 major STDs were of significant concern, syphilis and gonorrhea, and both were treatable with penicillin. According to the Institute of Medicine, more than 25 STDs are known today, many of which are viral and have no known cure. What has changed in our culture that would contribute to such alarming trends? We live in a culture that is increasingly saturated with sexuality. It is estimated that the average teen is exposed to depictions of 14,000 sexual encounters during 1 year of television viewing. In the 1950s, weekly church attendance in the United States was 49% according to Gallup polls. New research indicates that weekly church attendance has dropped below 20% of the population. In 1962, the Supreme Court banned prayer from public schools. In 1980, the Supreme Court banned the posting of the 10 Commandments in the public schools. Secularists in the ACLU seek to remove God from the public square, citing separation of church and state, a phrase which never occurs in the Constitution. The First Amendment of the Constitution states, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof." The intent of the founders was only to prevent state sanctioning of a particular religion and to preclude any limitation of public or private exercise of religion. To understand this, one need only look at the prevalence of religious convictions expressed in the writings of the founding fathers. George Washington said it best in an address to the American people. Reason and experience both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in exclusion of religious principle. Banning public and private expression of religion is unconstitutional, yet that is exactly what the Supreme Court has done by outlawing prayer in public schools. This, when taken together with the decline of church attendance, means that fewer and fewer Americans are formally taught the Ten Commandments, the Golden Rule, and the moral restraints that were a vital part of the American experience during the first 2 centuries of this great American nation. The result of these megatrends is an increasingly godless society, where man is the ultimate authority. The church has been marginalized, and no other institution has filled the gap. We have laws, but are rapidly losing the institutions which teach that these laws are morally right. In the absence of moral absolutes provided by religion, each person determines what is right or wrong in their own sight, and our laws become impotent. American culture is headed on a course of self-destruction. The criminal element in the population has grown rapidly since the 60s. Our culture is filled with violence and horrific crimes, notwithstanding massive increases in spending for law enforcement and correctional institutions. Sex saturation is poisoning our culture. Sexually transmitted diseases are at epidemic levels. The traditional family is in rapid decline, which is resulting in serious problems for our young people. It's not too late, but it is time to wake up, America. Something must be done before our culture spins out of control and is irreparably damaged. The solution to America's social problems is a return to God and the Judeo-Christian moral principles and heritage upon which this nation was founded. Given the lessening influence of the church in American life, our secular institutions must take on the responsibility for moral education. America's best and brightest minds need to address these problems. Our nation's leaders need to take action. Something must be done before it's too late. It's time to connect the dots, America. Wake up, America, before it's too late. Our actions in the early part of this century will determine if our best days are ahead of us or behind us.